Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Living in Arizona, just moved back from 5 years in Portugal, and God, I love this weather. I mean, it's in the low 90s right now. Beautiful sun. I can't spend too much time in the sunlight, but I am getting some beautiful vitamin D at the moment. I wanted to make this video for those of you that love to travel, whether you're Americans or not, and I wanted to make this about hidden gems or surprising destinations that Americans are traveling to from this time frame, January 2022 through July 2024. So as we were coming out of like the world being closed and travel resuming again, I wanted to show where people, Americans, were getting out to, and it might be a little different than prior to January 2022. So where have they gone? So I'm going to go the top 10, starting with number 10, and Egypt. So again, keep in mind, we had a couple of years where it was very difficult to travel internationally. So a lot of bucket list travel got put on the back burner, and now people are going, okay, we don't know what's coming down the road, but for right now, we want to get to the places that we wanted to get to and start knocking off bucket list places. So Egypt, obviously the pyramids, going down to Luxor, experiencing Cairo. That has been a place, and it's always been a bucket list for many people, but not as many people have traveled to it. Now, last couple of years, people are. Right above that, about 1 million people visited Peru. Many to try to get to Machu Picchu, but also the Peruvian food is amazing. So being able to go there is a destination that more Americans are starting to look at. Then above that, number 8 is Vietnam. There are people that are older that served in the Vietnam War, so they're going, and maybe they're taking their grandkids, children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren with them, as well as there are people that didn't grow up with the war, younger people that just want to go experience the culture and the amazing food that is in Vietnam. So a little over 1 million, I think it's like 1.15 Americans traveled during this time frame to Vietnam. Just above that is Morocco. So being able to go see Marrakesh, Fez, Casablanca, and get into Africa and be able to explore a country. Now, partly it's the closest country in Africa to the United States. But Moroccan food is amazing. They serve a lot of stuff in these tagine bowls. It's fantastic. It is a little different culture, and like the old towns versus the new towns in some of the cities, but you really get immersed into what Morocco is like, and it's very cool. Also, there's a ton of movie destinations or movies that have been filmed around Morocco because it hits so many different landscapes. So it's a beautiful place. If you get a chance, highly recommend it. We went, we loved it. Just above that, a place that's been big for the last few years with Americans is Croatia. So that is a place, the former Yugoslavia. So you have Montenegro, you have Macedonia, Kosovo, Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, but Croatia, mostly because of Dubrovnik. And Game of Thrones popularity has been big to be able to drive a lot of tourism to Croatia. People want to see some of the islands, but many people are going to want to see the filming locations for the Game of Thrones series. Above that, this is a surprise to me, Greece. About 1.5 million people traveled to Greece from January 2022 to July 2024. The reason it's surprising to me is for two reasons. One, Greece was open through most of the pandemic, so if you could get there, you could travel throughout Greece. And Greece traditionally is a top 10 most visited place for Americans. It's right up there with France and Italy and Germany. So to see it as more of an emerging or not in the top 10 most traveled, I just made a video on that, is a little surprising to me. We love Greece. I love Italian food, but I think for my money, if I were to eat it every day, Greek food is where I would be on a daily basis. And also to live, I really love so many parts of Greece, the mainland, but also all the thousands of islands to choose from. Next up in the top four, Costa Rica. So that may be a place that you're going, I didn't necessarily think that Americans were going to necessarily travel to versus other countries that might be in Central America. But Costa Rica, about 1.65 million traveled during that time. Part of it was accessibility, travel time from the U.S. to go down to Costa Rica, and a beautiful place, just with the jungles, the preserves, the different types of nature that are there. It's an amazing place to get to. So now we're in the top three. Number three, Iceland. Iceland has been an emerging place for the last 10 years for tourism. This year, there have been some volcanic eruptions, so that has thrown off some of their ability to get more tourists there. But more countries, more people that travel from different countries are looking at Iceland as a place to get to and explore and experience. So if you get a chance, I would certainly look at Iceland as building out maybe a 7 to 10 day itinerary. And you can do that to get around Iceland and to see everything that's there. And the food there is incredible. Now we're going to get to the top two. Again, emerging places for Americans to travel to. Number two is Colombia. And this was surprising to me because I thought there might be other places that would be in the top 10, let alone number two. But almost 2 million people from 2022 through July of 2024 this year traveled to Colombia to check out the food, the culture, just to go see different places and cities. For me, when I think of Colombia, based upon my age, I immediately think of the 80s and early 90s. I think of Pablo Escobar, think of drug kingpin, but not these days. There may still be some of that there with other cartels, but it's really becoming more of a go-to destination for Americans to travel and for spending their tourism dollars. And then the top place that is the emerging or the trendy place for Americans to get to from January 2022 through July of 2024 is Portugal. A little over 2.5 million Americans traveled there, and we know because we live there. And so I met with my consulting business so many people from America that were finding Portugal. And what's interesting is in the past, people would go to Spain and then come back to the States. Now more people are doing trips that it's a combo trip. It's Spain and Portugal, and then coming back, or Portugal then Spain. So it's becoming a combo with Spain, and or just to travel on its own. You have Portugal with Porto to the north, Lisbon in the central, the amazing Algarve with its amazing, incredible beaches along the southern tip of the border. The whole country is wine country. You have Douro Valley, port wine, of course, to the north. We prefer what's called the Alentejo region, which is to the east of Lisbon. Check that out, the Alentejo wine region. But then also don't forget the Azores, the island chain, and Madeira off in the Atlantic. Those are places that, although they're in Portugal, seem like a world away. So Portugal is becoming the top 10 hidden gem, but I bet give it a couple more years, it will be in the top 10 of most traveled to places by Americans as it gets on more radars of more people. But I wanted to show you, I just tailored a video a couple of days ago to the top 10 places Americans traveled. This was going to be the top 10 hidden gems. What I want is, if you made it this far in the video, please comment below. Have you been to one of these places, or do you recommend other places that don't show up here that might be emerging or become a big destination in the next 3 to 5 years? Please leave a comment below so that people can add new places to their itinerary or check out new spots for travel, because as Americans, we do like to travel. We do like to spend money traveling. So please leave that below. I think we'd all love to know of more places, or what's the next trendy hotspot to get to. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your travels.